It's time to rank the best running backs in college football for 2026. Who do you have?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, Locked On. We're going to be jumping into the running back rankings. We have PFF's top 10 for 26. We use them as a guide. Some agreements, some disagreements, and everything that goes on with it. The transfer portal players you need to know, some under-the-radar guys you need to know. But overall, this is about, and take nothing else from it, the top running backs in 2026 and how they can be a major part of the discussion for who makes and possibly wins the college football playoff in 2026. So let's jump in and have a little fun. Number one, I want to look at this from a priority perspective. For those of you watching live, it's on your screen. If you're not, here it is. Straightforward. 5 things that I personally look at. Is the running back in question an all-around performer? Does he block and catch in addition to being a big-time runner? I don't care if you're a power guy, a speed guy. Do you catch the football and do you block? If you don't, that's going to be a negative for you. Number 2, yards after contact. And will you consistently run between the tackles? Even a guy like Isaac Brown, who over the last 2 years has the highest yards per carry of any player in college football, he runs between the tackles. It is a priority. Number 3, big games, big moments. Are you clutch? Number 4, home run threat. Nobody better than Isaac Brown a couple of years over the last 2 years, and he's back at Louisville. He had an even higher average than Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price at Notre Dame. But is there anybody else? Who do we need to talk about? We'll get into that. And number 5, just team player. This is more off the record, things you hear about, things you see. Who are those guys that make it happen? The big-time players are also big-time teammates. We'll talk about that, but let's get right into the list by Pro Football Focus. This is their top 10, and I'll share my screen here in a minute, but these are the stats that go with them. Number 1, Ahmad Hardy. He'll be a junior at Missouri. Really, really good football player. 1,648 yards, 16 scores. Kewan Lacy, Ole Miss, led the nation just about for the longest time in touchdowns, but at the end, Caleb Hawkins, number 3, passed him with 25 scores. But Lacy in the SEC, 15, 64, and 24 scores. That's incredible. Hawkins was at Texas or North Texas last year before transferring. That is going to be interesting. I'm really curious about it. I haven't seen him much because he played at North Texas. Oklahoma State, they need a lot of different things, and they got Maker as quarterback too. That'll be a really fun combination. 1,431 yards and 25 scores. Jaden Ball at Florida, he got cheated last year. Their offensive line didn't do what they needed to consistently enough. And obviously that staff got fired for a reason. 1168 and 8 scores. Antoine Raymond, a kid that many, myself, really don't know much about. At Rutgers, he had a 240-yard game against Maryland last year. 1,238 yards, 13 scores. LJ Martin, BYU, he was a stud, clutch performer in a rather strength, power, just right at you kind of offense. Did throw it down the field a ton, but he had 1,299 yards and 12 scores. Nate Sheppard, as a true freshman at Duke, 1,132 yards and 11 scores. That's number 7. Bo Jackson at Ohio State, 1,085 yards and 6 scores last year for the Buckeyes. Isaac Brown, he's fed the nation over the last 2 years in yards per carry. Only played 9 games last year, but 878 yards and 7 scores. And Mark Fletcher Jr., one of my favorite running backs in the country, 1,184 yards and 12 scores for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, this is just their list, and they have a whole bunch of different stats to go with it. And I want to share my screen and just kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that they look at from this. And there's some really cool stats involved. And I'm just going to go to the top and just kind of give a couple of snapshots of what PFF has. And this is a really good starting point. Hardy led the nation in yards after contact. Listen to this number. His yards after contact is higher than almost anybody else's yards overall. 1,181 yards. Wow. So that's a great sign, and he's also really good at making people miss a tackle, 96. He has 2,994 yards in the last couple of years. The next guy's 399 yards from him. So I've got Hardy number 1, too. Spoiler alert. Man, what a player. Lacy's 24 scores, led the Power 4, and he was second in that group in rushing yards. I don't think it's really hard to just, I don't care which one you go with, really. Excuse me. But either one of those needs to be considered for the top spot, no matter how you do this list. Caleb Hawkins, now again, he's at Oklahoma State now. He was, I mean, no offense to him, he's at North Texas last year. It's harder to grade him, but he still had 25 rushing touchdowns and 1,056 yards after contact. Jaden Ball had 266 yards against Florida State last year at the end of the year. His PFF grade was 89.5 for rushing. No power four back has been more valuable over the last 2 seasons than Ball, they say. Kind of hard to argue that. Now, Antoine Raymond, this is a guy that, to be really blunt, I've only seen snippets of him because Rutgers is terrible. But he still had really good numbers. And overall, he had an 89 PFF grade, 12th in the nation. That's pretty good. 76 forced missed tackles. Could you imagine what he would do if he was playing like behind Georgia's line or Texas or LSU or something? LJ Martin at BYU, he's the consummate power back, 6'2", 220. Love his all-around game. He's good in screens and everything else. 893 yards after contact. That's really impressive. It was most in his conference in the Big 12. And he also could have went to the draft, but he's back. I think he'll have a huge year. Nate Sheppard will only be a sophomore without Darian Mensah this time, though. Over 1,000 yards last year. That's really impressive. PFF grade 89.5. He's also a guy that had over 280 yards in the receiving game, so he is an all-around player. Bo Jackson. He hit the ground running with the Buckeyes. They rotated back, so he didn't have a huge year number-wise, but he still ended up with 76.9 PFF grade for receiving, and he was also 724 yards after contact. Really good. Here's the stat that says it all about Isaac Brown, the Louisville running back. Yards per carry over the last 2 years. 7.8 yards per carry. The next closest, Ashton Denty or Jeremiah Love, they're both at 6.9. I mean, that's almost a full yard more. He's the most explosive player in college football. It will be interesting to see what he does. If he can stay healthy, look out. 39% forced missed tackle rate also led all power four backs. Brown averaged 7.8 yards per carry during his career, easily the best mark in the land. And then finally, Mark Fletcher. This is a guy that I didn't know if he would make this list, but he came in at number 10. Maybe the most durable, consistent running back in the country. Mark Fletcher is good at pass protection. He catches the football. He's good on the goal line, short yardage, and he's got better speed than you think. He had 842 yards, rushing yards after contact last year. It's 10th in the nation. He had 36 explosive runs, good for 6th in the country. Even with the new look offensive line, he should be expected to put up more big numbers this senior year. I agree. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. And if you want to comment in the chat, fire away. Number one here, again, 1 and 2, I'd imagine almost everybody's going to have either Lacy number 1 or Hardy number 1 for 2026. Just my opinion. Number 2 with that, this is very important. There's probably going to be somebody challenge them that we're not talking about at all on today's podcast. Running back is the position like Sheppard last year. He was a freshman at Duke. Came in and he just lit it up. There will be somebody at the end of the year that's on this list that we're not talking about. Just want to make sure that I bring that up. Now, here's why I wanted to talk about Mr. Fletcher. They're under pressure because Miami's a big-time program again. He won the battle. He was consistent. They get to the national title game. He was their workhorse. Mark Fletcher could have left Miami. He could have left, and he stayed. He could have went to the NFL, or he could have taken a check somewhere else, and he stayed. He could have went somewhere else and been the complete workhorse because Miami's running back room is loaded. Shamar Brown, just among others. They're just loaded with guys. Pringle is back. Jordan Lyle is back. In my opinion, it's probably the deepest running back room in the country because all 4 of those guys have proven they can play. Now the question is, how do you mix all those carries up when you've got Fletcher at the front? It's going to be interesting, but they are loaded. I think he is the consummate team player. If you take nothing else from this pod, Mark Fletcher is probably not going to get the respect he deserves. His stats might actually go down a little this year. It's possible in the regular season to try to keep the wear and tear off his body, and I get it if they do that. He's really good, but that's the kind of guy I look for. And here are a few things that I just kind of wrote down. These are some of the guys that I think are my favorite backs all time to watch. There's some different styles, but Eric Dickerson, Jerome Bettis, Marshall Faulk, Emmitt Smith, and then for those of you that are way back, John Riggins, Tony Dorsett from the early 80s, late 70s. Different kinds of backs can all do it, but they were team players. Like Riggins, one year he was like NFL's offensive MVP. He only averaged like 3.8 yards per carry, but he was the guy that got the ball. Everybody in the stadium knew he was getting it on the goal line against goal line defense, 1 yard at a time, etc. If they hadn't done that, he'd average about 4.5 yards a carry, but he led the NFL in touchdowns. Fletcher has some of that in his game, but better breakaway speed, catches the ball, and he's a guy that blocks. That kind of running back to me is what you're looking for in college football now. This idea that you can't be a great running back unless you do all of it is not true, but it certainly helps. I like the all-around back, and I know most people do. Fletcher is a consummate guy like that. Here are a couple other things that I also want to bring up. It's just kind of a point. You have to be able to have a running back room with some depth, and there are a few teams that I think you're going to see some breakouts, and this is my breakout list. We'll go into the questions and the comments here after the break, but Dave Frazier at Georgia would have been well over 1,000 yards last year, but he's at Georgia. I think he's going to have a huge year. He was at 947 and 6 last season. Aeneas Williams at Notre Dame was behind not just Jadarian Price, but also Jeremiah Love. He had 228 yards and 5 scores in just 6 games. They're just loaded. He will have a huge year. King Miller was a walk-on at USC last year. A walk-on. He ends up with 967 and 8. He has all kinds of speed. I think he's going to have a great year. Lee Beebe got hurt at Indiana. He averaged about 7 yards a carry. After 3 games, though, he had 200 yards and a score. Look out for him for the Hoosiers. And Jordan Marshall, just under 1,000 yards last year for an underachieving Michigan offense, 932 yards and 10 scores. I think those are some of the guys that are going to be good. Before we go to break, I just want to put something in your mind. Who are some guys that you think should be considered for top 10, top 5? Maybe it's a specific kind of player like an Isaac Brown type. Is there a breakout guy you think is going to be there? Comment down below if you're listening to this later. If you're in the chat, fire away. We will be back more of the Portal Podcast.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. All 4 number 1 seeds, UConn, UCLA, Texas, and South Carolina, have completely dominated the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. UConn rolled with a 98-45 victory over Syracuse behind AZ Fudd, who had a 34-point explosion, while South Carolina has been led by Joyce Edwards coming off a 23-point game. UCLA leaned on Lauren Betts with a 35-point performance in an 87-68 win over Oklahoma State. And Texas advanced comfortably with a 40-point show from Madison Booker. And now we're headed to the Sweet 16. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in all the tournament action all the way through the final game. Here's the best part. You can get up to $300 in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved with the tournament in every way, shape, or form. You can mix it up however you want. You can go with player props. You can go with traditional point spreads. You can use futures. You can do parlays, whatever you want to do. It's the perfect for the tournament because every day is something new because it's the NCAA tournament, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved with the bracket as it unfolds. Visit FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club down below in the description. Use code MARCH for a free month. It'll explain more, but the best part, your ads will go away on your audio feed. Check out the Everydayer Club. All right, who do you have? Again, I just want to reiterate. I'm curious about who's your breakout guy, who's a surprise player, or if there's somebody you think it's kind of like the next Isaac Brown or Jeremiah Love or Ashton Genty that's a breakaway threat. Who is it and why? Comment down below. Make sure you give me the reason for it. And if you just like this podcast, give me something you want to talk about. I'll have that show ready for you soon. All right. We have some questions and some comments in here. We're going to have a little fun with it. Salty had a pretty good group of questions here to get started. Many things in life are cyclical, such as lapels, wits, and fashion. Do you think the importance of running backs will increase in coming cycle in college football? Yes, and here's why. There are a handful of teams that have the money to go out and buy the quarterback. It is by far, no doubt about it, the most important position, quarterback, in college football. It is always going to be the most important position, quarterback. But if you have a running back that could chew up the clock and keep that other team's quarterback on the sideline, it's important. There are certain teams that can't go get a Darian Mensah or something like that. They don't have Arch Manning. They don't have CJ Carr. Their only path to victory is keeping those guys on the sideline. The running back is the key. I think you're going to see a split. The top teams won't necessarily do that consistently, although Miami with Fletcher is kind of a difference. They do things a little bit differently than some other squads. But again, the key here is very, very simple. You're looking at an opportunity to keep the opposing team's best player, most impactful, on the sideline. So I 100% believe that especially like those mid-level teams in a conference, like Minnesota runs the ball. They're not going to throw it around against Ohio State. That's not realistic. You have to do that. A team down in the South, like Vanderbilt, they had a great quarterback, but he still ran. They were ball control when they needed to be, up tempo when they needed to be, but they had to grind things out. They didn't have the defensive depth that Texas or Georgia had. You've got to find different ways to make it work with your run game. Salty, does the modern running back need to at least be a threat to catch the football and at most be a talented and productive receiver? I mean, you don't have to be a guy that winds up in the slot like Jeremiah Love does, but catching 20 passes, I don't think is a very high barometer. You need to be able to at least be a check down guy, right? If you're a guy that can go out and play receiver legitimately, that's a whole nother level, but that's one that kind of depends on the offense too. Salty, do you agree that running back coaches should focus on things that occurred before the running back gets to the line of scrimmage, but after that time, the running back's instincts must take over? I think that's twofold. It's a little both. From the coaches that I've been around, they worry about ball security in the pile. Like when you're turning and all that, don't get loose with the football. So after contact, that's what I hear most. But before, it's about vision and patience. Don't just hit the hole because it's there. Like if it's not the right spot, there's probably somebody on the backside of that waiting for you. But you're tall enough, like an Eric Dickerson who was 6'2", 6'3". Most guys don't see what's going on beyond the line because their linemen are too tall. Know your hole where it's supposed to go, and if something just wide open, yeah, go ahead. But otherwise, it is about your footwork, making sure you carry out your fakes. Everything you do is the same every time to keep guys off balance. All those little things, they are absolutely pivotal. Is the running back the least complicated position to coach? Probably. I don't know if there's another spot that would go. Maybe weak side defensive end could be in that position because in a true 4-3, kind of like old school Florida State, they didn't ask him to drop much or anything, but running back overall probably. Jadarian Price surprised people by remaining running back 2 at Notre Dame despite large money offers to transfer and be RB1. He loved the school. He said it was hard to explain this to his mom. Is this common? No, it is not. There are some, like Mark Fletcher that I mentioned today. He certainly fits that, but there aren't a ton of them. There are a few. Most of the time, like just as an example, let's say you're making $400,000 at a school to play running back or whatever. If somebody offers you twice as much, it's kind of hard not to take that money. You just paid for a house. So I can't blame somebody. But just full disclosure, I went to meet with Jadarian when he was in high school. I had no idea he was going to be that good. And I realized how fast he was. The game I went to, he ran for $299. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown, and he had like 100 yards receive. Like he was one of the most electric players I've ever seen at the high school level. And I'm like, I told Driscoll, I'm like, there's no way. He was ranked number 15 or something. I'm like, there's no way. This is a top 5 running back. He's going to make an impact. And he certainly did. How was your weekend at the 5-on-5 showcase? It was great. I got to learn a lot, see a lot of great players. There's a 5-on-5 league coming, and it's probably going to be rolling next year. I'm going to actually do a pod on it soon. Salty, this is my own post, actually. Let's see here. Katie, to me, the good running backs will get north and south quickly. I always liked Fletcher over DZ. Yeah, like there's a lot of different ways you can look at that. You still got to have some patience to it. Some guys hit the hole too fast. But sometimes you look at the situation and you go, you know what, we just need 1 yard here. You got to be able to look at circumstance. Even a guy like Jeremiah Love or Ashton Genty, the 2 best running backs over the last 2 years, all around, They just needed 2 yards. Keep the ball. Don't let the other team get it back, and it's over with. There's different things to look at. Do you get down before you go out of bounds to keep the clock running? Like little things in the last 2 minutes. Anything like that adds to it, but your north-south point is a really important one. And here's an example of that. In high school, Jeremiah, I covered him when he was the Under Armour game. In his high school film, he went to the outside a lot and just outran everybody because he's probably a 10-5 guy, if not better now. Like, he's insanely fast. But he said in high school, I could just do that. Most guys get in that habit, and they try to do it in college. He's one of the only I can ever think of that immediately became an inside runner just because that's what he needed to do, like a light switch. It is rare to see guys that do both, and those are the elite players. Miami may have the number 10 running back, but it won't matter. The head coach was screwed up and at bad calls. That's Salty talking in accordance with Katie. That's funny. To me, a good running back doesn't waste time getting to the hole and getting north and south. I never liked Damian Martinez because he liked to tippy-toe behind the line of scrimmage. That's fair. I posted on your behalf before you posted. This one's interesting. Salty says, shouldn't Isaac Brown be rated higher? I actually have, I'll just go ahead and bring this up now. My top 5, this is the order I have. Hardy and Lacy, 1, 2. I don't think that's that hard. I've got Jaden Ball from Florida, number 3. LJ Martin from BYU, number 4. And Fletcher, number 5. I like guys that everybody in the stadium knows they're going to get the ball and can do something. But I put an asterisk by Isaac Brown down below. He could end up number 1 on this list. Remember, he only played like 9 games last year. If he's healthy and gets 175 carries, he could be a 1,500-yard runner. Absolutely. I think the reason he's not ranked higher is he wasn't healthy last year. Your best ability is your availability. No Salty, no more degrees for the time being. I may go back at some point to get a JD, but I need a break. Katie likes the academics. Same here, except that I don't think I'll go back for a third under any circumstances. Rashard Smith was my kind of running back. He left SMU as their single-season all-purpose yardage leader. He's living proof that who the coach is matters. I liked Hollywood Henderson, too. Aeneas Williams is my breakaway surprise running back. He caught the ball very well in pressure situations and ran productively. He was RB3 for Notre Dame. Now he is the favorite to be RB1. Like I said, I think he'll have a breakout year. He'll have 800 or 900 yards at least. He may be over 1,000, depending on how Notre Dame does their rotation. Katie, I meant Hollywood Smothers. Yeah, Smothers is a guy I think that could very well end up in the top 10. But Rayleigh Brown transfers that. He was at USC, Arizona State, and Texas. That's going to be a great 1-2 punch for the Longhorns. Salty, Katie, Hollywood Henderson isn't a bad call, even if it's a total non-secular. Hollywood Henderson, for those that don't know, back in the 70s, early 80s, was an incredible linebacker for the Cowboys. All right, when we come back, I want to discuss a few surprise things, and I want to know what you think of the overall theme. Do running backs, especially like those freshmen and sophomores that burst onto the scene, are they what you're looking for, or should you kind of go with the guy that knows the system? How do you do that? Sometimes you see running backs kind of get bypassed because there's somebody more explosive. There are different ways to look at it. That is next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. People moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. You always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play-by-play. You decide. Trade with Robinhood, now available across the United States. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk. It is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. We are also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you had to fill is still sitting wide open. The pressure's on and you need to get the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. the skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your posts. And in the minute that I'm going to be speaking with you, companies like yours will make 27 hires on Indeed according to their data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time finding candidates you need with Indeed sponsored jobs. With that means less stress, less time, more results when you get the right person from Indeed sponsored jobs. And there is a $75 sponsored job credit with Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Do you like the up-and-coming running back? I talked about my under-the-radar guys. I'll just throw this back up on the screen. Do you like the under-the-radar guy, or do you like just kind of grinding it out? Let me give you an example. This list right here that I have on the screen: Nate Frazier, Aeneas Williams, King Miller, Lee Beebe Jr., and Jordan Marshall. They all played last year, had different levels of success. Like Frazier was just under 53 yards for 1,000 yards at Georgia, but he was sharing the ball. Would you rather just go more in with Nate Frazier if you're Kirby Smart, or would you rather just continue to use Chauncey Bowens as a battering ram as well and wear down teams? How do you want to do that? To that end, if you've got a freshman, I'll throw this list back up there just as an example. Number 7 on this list, Nate Sheppard. He was a true freshman for Duke last year. 1,132 yards and 11 scores. That is impressive. Good for Nate. I'm glad to see that he went out and got it done. But at the same time, that is the exception, not the rule. Not many coaches, credit to Duke staff, by the way, will allow somebody to come in and be the lead back, because they've also got to protect for a quarterback like Darian Mensah. That's rough. Same thing with Bo Jackson at Ohio State. He ended up going for 1,085 and 6. He was protecting for Julian Sayin. So my question once again, are you cool with a young running back like a freshman, redshirt freshman, being the guy? Because you got to worry about those colossal moments with fumbles. They're more likely to fumble when they're young. Missed pass protection, definitely a problem with young backs. And then at the end of the day, are you going to see them be clutch? Well, they haven't been yet because they just got to your school and started playing. That's very difficult. What say you? Comment in the chat or down below if you're listening to this a little bit later on. My last point that I want to make about all these running backs, yes, Salty brought this up. It is hard to be a dominant force and kind of take away from the passing game, because that's usually where the points come in today's world with all the spread offenses. But again, you could mitigate what other teams do if you've got a great running back. You can go out of your way and make it happen with a great running back, because the other team's quarterback standing on the sideline. Their stud receiver, like a Jeremiah Smith. You're not going to cover him. There is a place for the running back to be dominant in college football. Not good, dominant. If you have that great running back, or maybe a combo, Chauncey Bowens, Nate Frazier at Georgia is a great example. Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers are 2 transfers at Texas. I think that the whole bevy of running backs at Notre Dame, Jordan Marshall and a couple other kids they have, that staff that just came up from Utah at Michigan is going to get it done. Jordan Marshall with whoever they put, that's going to be a good group. I look at this as a scenario where, again, as I talked about earlier, I'm going to reiterate this. Outside of a handful of teams that can just splatter you with their quarterback play, like a CJ Carr or Julian Sayin, most teams are going to have to use the running backs more, because they're not going to spend the same money for retention for the quarterback they have. They can't afford it. Or the guy they want in the portal, they're just not going to pick your school. Sam Leavitt was at a pretty good program in Arizona State. They were in the playoff, and 2 years later, he's at LSU. It shows how hard it is. You need to have a running back that can be a dude. Especially at the college level, there's a place for the running back to be absolutely dominant. No doubt in my mind about that. Let's see. Katie, Brashard Smith wasn't Mario's type. Mario likes 220-pound guys as opposed to the 109-pound range that Brashard and Smothers were in. He does, but at the same time, I think it would be a smart move if Miami got one guy that was 180 to be a change of pace guy you bring in once in a while that you could throw the ball to, because teams that play man defense, if you want to try to put a linebacker on a running back that's running a wheel route, good luck. There are a lot of different things that are very simple in football like that. Salty, I favor every year having an open competition at running back. Returners are presumed running back 1 and 2, but freshmen and sophomores need to be given time with the first team to see what they can do with their gifts. I think that's a really fair assessment, Salty. Sometimes it's difficult. Noah James at Notre Dame played a little bit last year. He had some good moments in fall camp, and so that's one example that I know you're interested because you're an ND guy. But there are a lot of kids like that. Like Isaac Brown played really early for Louisville because they gave him a little bit of shot in fall camp. They're like, whoa, look out. And to that end, I want to mention a couple of guys. The guy that actually led the nation in running back, this is a good example, that led the nation in rushing last year. Now, it wasn't P4, but was Cam Cook at Jacksonville State. He's transferring to be back with Rich Rod in West Virginia. He had 1,659 yards at 16 scores last year. He's around 200 pounds. He's really athletic. That could be somebody that explodes. It's kind of new to the scene. And Caleb Hawkins, again, I haven't seen him much because he was at North Texas. He could be somebody like that. There are different ways to look at transfers, freshmen, people we don't know about. But last year, he was super explosive. And maybe he ends up being that guy again. We'll see. Katie, if Miami doesn't use Gerard Pringle more this next year, they're stupid. I'm also surprised Jordan Lyle stayed at Miami. He might have improved his draft stock elsewhere. And Miami's room is just dumb. It really is. Pringle will get reps, probably, but he's still third team right now. Remember Thunder and Lightning at Clemson? Yeah, I do. There's been a few combinations like that in college football that matter. When you got a 225-pound guy and you've got a 190-pound guy, you're mixing them up, it's hard. It's really hard. I remember Reggie Brooks and Jerome Bettis at Notre Dame. Reggie was about 195 pounds and Bettis was about 265 pounds. Those kind of combinations are tough for teams to really kind of take on. Last point here, just remember, this is college football. Again, running backs are valued a little bit differently. In the NFL level, running backs pretty much bottom of the barrel in terms of value. But that doesn't mean they're not talented and you can't do things with them. But in college, the quarterback play is really inconsistent. Teams that run the ball, whether traditionally, option football, Navy, whatever, it's a key. It's a building block. These are some of the guys that you have to find. Sometimes you got to move a guy from DB, maybe it's receiver. Again, like USC's best running back comeback was a kid that was a walk-on last year. You don't always know. King Miller's the guy. You don't always know who you're going to get. And think about that, by the way. King Miller at USC, one of the greatest running back schools of all time. You don't always know who's going to break out. It's really crazy. So with that, thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. Tomorrow, we'll be talking more recruiting, a little bit more of an overview. We're going to try to break into some of the news, hopefully, what there is that coaches allow from some of these spring practices. I want to hear what people think about breakout players at any position tomorrow on the Portal Podcast, whether it's defensive end, running back, receiver, free safety, whatever it may be. We'll talk about breakout players in college football, and maybe we'll break into a little bit of how important it is for those guys to break out at certain schools or head coaches maybe out the door. That is tomorrow's Portal Podcast. We'll get to that tomorrow. But thank you very much once again, and we will see you again soon right here on the Portal Podcast.